Welcome to the Unity Guides Expert Interviews series. My name is Clayton Stenson. I'll be your host today. This series is brought to you by Unity Guides Incorporated, where we help develop Unity within companies running on the entrepreneurial operating system. We do this through fractional integrator services and coaching for the visionary and integrator, as well as their leadership teams. So recently, I've been meeting so many amazing people, and I thought there has to be a way I can take a piece of the conversation I have week in and week out and share them with the business community to add value. And one of those amazing people I've recently met is Robert Hunt. Robert leads peer groups and does executive coaching for CEOs. And the topic we're going to discuss today is his book, which is titled Nobody Cares.
Yeah.
So welcome, Robert.
Thank you so much, Clayton.
Awesome. But before we get into that, Robert, I just tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do before we chat about the book.
Yeah, I'm married to my beautiful wife, Kathy, for 25 years now. I grew up in the Southern California area, but moved to Texas in 2010 because Texas is the best country in America. And I wanted to be here and started my own business in 2013. I was doing marketing consulting before that, but then I heard about peer groups and I really thought this is a great way for me to live out my personal purpose in life through my job, which most people don't get the pleasure of doing that, where they get to actually live out their purpose through their job, and I do. So I've been doing that for 10 years now. And I meet with business owners and CEOs here in the DFW area, and I help them figure out what do they really want, and then why aren't they doing it? My experience has been that most leaders already know what to do. They're just not getting it done, which is a lot like what you do with EOS. You're putting some systems behind helping people figure out, well, what do you really want? And then why aren't we doing it? And so in my role, I play the coaching role, helping people get through some of the head trash that holds them back. And there's a lot of that. But also helping them build their teams up through leadership development, through retreats and strategic planning sessions, and then monthly peer groups where the CEO or business owners come together and we work on issues that are challenging us or opportunities we're trying to capture. And because you're in a room with 9 or 10 other experienced leaders, we always seem to find a good solution. One of the magical things about group learning is you never tell anyone what to do. You just ask them what they want to do, and then you help them find a solution from your experience. So it's really magical. And self-discovery is the way to go. I mean, if someone tells you, you should fire that guy, well, what do you know? But if you ask enough questions, they go, I should fire that guy. then you make your own decisions. It's usually the one you like the most, and you're more likely to do it.
Yeah.
I have 2 grown children. Lauren is 32 and James is 21. He's finishing up college. Lauren got married a year ago, and she's got a wonderful husband, Dylan. And they live in Austin area.
Awesome.
And that's about us.
That's good. Awesome. Well, let's shift gears now and get into the interview. So Nobody Cares is the name of your book. So why did you call it that?
That phrase came from raising my son, James, in his about 15 years old. He just had a habit of blaming everybody and everything. And I was trying to get him to think about, you got to stop saying that. He'd come home and say, I'm not doing good in this class. This teacher's a jerk. And I go, really? And so is everybody failing that class? No. Why is everybody else able to deal with that jerk and you're not? And I started saying the phrase, hey, nobody cares whether or not you have a bad teacher, and nobody cares. Your boss won't care whether or not traffic was bad. Your kids won't care whether or not you can't seem to work with other people and get along. They'll just care they don't have enough money to pay rent. And I kept saying the phrase, nobody cares, nobody cares. And he'd say, stop saying that. I hate that. I go, dude, that's the truth. Nobody cares. Nobody cares whether or not you're miserable or broke or you can't pass your class. Nobody cares unless you do. And that's the turning point the book talks about. We've found that people, as they look at it, the idea of accountability, they're very quick to blame. They're very quick to make excuses. They're quick to say, I can't, or just to wait and hope that it gets better, but it doesn't. And we saw that in our own journey, and that's the stories we tell in our book. Salem Thine and I wrote this book together because we just had such a passion about this idea of helping people see what a real accountability looks like. And so at that turning point, when you're done being miserable, and we say where the pain of where you are is worse than the pain of where you need to go, you're willing to change. And it's at that point you say to yourself, nobody cares. Nobody cares if my marriage is falling apart. Nobody cares I'm broke. Nobody cares I can't find a job unless you care enough to do something about it. And that's the turning point in the book that really gets someone to go, okay, I own it. That's the simplest definition of accountability, by the way, is you own it. And you
Hmm.
look at your life and you just say, I own that, I own that, I own that. When you own everything, you have the power to change anything. And that to me is exciting. People
Hmm.
think that's more pressure to be accountable. No, it's freedom. When you play the role of victim, you're a prisoner to everyone and everything
Yeah.
that happens your way. But when you own it, you have the power to do something about it. To me, that's very exciting.
I think, I've heard people say you can't hold anyone accountable,
Right.
right? Like ultimately, people need to hold themselves accountable. I often, hold the mirror in front of somebody if they're, not holding themselves accountable. And that's, I think, the job of the coach sometimes is to challenge, like you did with your son. So stories are powerful. So tell us your story, and I'll just say before you get into that, I was just really impressed with how authentic and vulnerable the book is. More
Thank
so than most books that I've read, and I read a lot of books, and I really appreciated that because I think it's in my experience, it's in our lowest times, our lowest points, our moments where someone does hold the mirror up or you hold the mirror up in front of yourself, that your life changes. So tell us a little bit about your story and how this all came to happen.
Yeah, Kathy and I had been uh, walking this journey of starting a new business since 2013, and every year business was up and down. Some years were better than others, but we always seemed to spend more money than we earned. That was our consistent habit. And after enough years of that, we as a family owed the government $90,000. And every year we kept thinking, okay, maybe next year it'll get better. Maybe next year something will change. And it never did. So at the beginning of 2019, we just got together one night, we whiteboarded out, what do we really want our lives to look like? We were very frustrated year after year. And we kept blaming the economy and the franchise we worked with and communications or marketing, or even blame God. At many points we would blame God and, why aren't you blessing us? And in your definition of blessing, and you get to decide what blessing looks like, but I had the blessings of God. I had my salvation. I had a wife who loves me. Man, most of the guys would kill for a wife like I have. And I was blessed big time, but I only looked at blessings of, hey, will you give me enough money to pay off my stupid decisions? And he wasn't doing that. So in 2019, we just decided, look, if things don't get better this year, let's sell the house and start over. And all year long, we kept praying, okay, God, bless us. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. And in September of that year, I got vertigo. I got it for 16 days and I couldn't sleep. I couldn't work. I was sick all the time. And I remember about 10 days into it, just going, Kathy, we're so screwed because if I have vertigo the rest of my life, I can't work. I can't earn money. And we owe $90,000. So thankfully, the Lord took it away after 16 days, and that's when we decided that's it. We gotta sell the house. So we put up on the market. Took a little while, but that was the turning point for us. Was to say, there's no more kicking it down the road. There's no more making excuses. We own it. We made a bad choice. We need to fix it.
Hmm.
And by March of 2020, we sold the house, closed escrow, and moved here into this little house that we rent now, and we started over.
That's awesome. It's interesting. Something that stood out to me was you're praying for God to bless us, bless us, bless us. It's interesting how we look for something external to ourselves to solve our problems, right? Again, it's like God is like a lottery or a whatever,
A
right? It's,
butler.
yeah, like an external locus of control rather than having an internal locus of control. And for me, I know I'm in my fourth year of business. Every year my business has grown, and it's doing well, right? But I think it's at different stages. I realize, okay, the person I am now has gotten me to here, and now if I want to go to here, the person I am now needs to change again, right? I need to grow in this, or I need to, learn how to delegate better or whatever, right? And that's, in my experience, what's led to a lot of growth over the years is not looking outside of myself for the answer, right? It's looking, inside at what needs to change. Sometimes it's my relationship with God needs to change because I'm not trusting Him enough or whatever. And sometimes it's a skill, but it's a variety. So tell us what happened. What's life been like since you made this change?
Oh my gosh. It was awesome. I think that when we're buried in our own victim mindset. We can't do anything. We can't make any decisions. The frustration of being so heavily in debt skewed how I saw everything, because I couldn't dare try and take any risks when I was saddled with debt. And my opinion of myself was I was such a loser. So I felt so defeated. And all that spiraled into how I treated my wife and how I treated my kids and the decisions I made about the money that we did make, and how I grow my business, everything, my health.
Mhm.
When I finally, in April of 2020, we paid all the debt off. We had debt free. The peace that I had was incredible, but I'd forgotten what it felt like to be in peace. I forgot the freedom, how it cleared my mind. You're weighted down with the mental burden of the decisions you've made. And you see everything through the filter of, I'm screwed, I'm a loser, I can't do anything, I'm stuck here. When you take that away and you see truth, I'm a child of God. I've been redeemed by the God of the universe. My salvation is assured for all eternity. And by the way, I have a wife who loves me and healthy kids, and I live in America. And. But I couldn't see past the first part because of the other stuff. So once we got free of that, I could see the world differently. And it
Mhm.
was very freeing. I had the peace that I got from not being stressed about money was amazing. But then I could make decisions based on risk. I would never lose a client in the past. I would do anything to keep a client in the past, even not even confront them when I'd see them making bad choices. Because what if I made them mad and they left? I can't
Mhm.
afford to lose any money. Well, now that I didn't have any debt, I was willing to call people out all the time. Dude, that's not right. You can't do that. You don't want to do that. And I was willing to take a risk in my business and in other relationships that I would have kind of pulled my punches in the past. So
Mhm.
it freed me up that way. It freed me up to make better decisions because my mind was clear. I didn't think I could do anything about other areas of my life because I was such a loser in this big area that I wouldn't dare try anything. But then
Mhm.
I thought, hey, Kathy and I built a lot of bad habits and have had conflict. We need to go to counseling together to talk this through and reset everything. But that would be too scary to ask, say we should go to counseling. She would never agree to that. So I never bring it up. But once I was free of all that trash, I go, Kathy, let's start over. Let's do this. Let's do the same thing we're doing to our finances, to our marriage. Let's go and get stuff cleaned up. And that was awesome. Going to counseling together was fabulous. We hired a financial advisor who came in and started looking at our money and going, why are you wasting all the money on this stuff? Why are you guys spending so much money? Having some other human look at your money is embarrassing. Because they got to call you out. Gee, do you guys want to go out to dinner this often? Well, no. But if you make yourself vulnerable, that's what we say is, if you want true accountability, you have to be vulnerable. Vulnerability creates accountability. And having
Mhm.
some other dude look at our money and go, no, this is not, I can't believe you really want to spend money like this. So we
Mhm.
started looking at all different areas of our life, and it freed up. I was weighing 265 at that point in my life. I Most of my nights were filled with frustration, and so I'd go home, have a bowl of chips and a glass of bourbon, like every night.
Mhm.
And I got so fat during COVID and all those years that followed because of that first year before. I just had been living that lifestyle for a while. But then during COVID, we just continue to have just this nowhere to go, just sit home and drink. And what
Mhm.
had been something I would do socially now became a routine every night, and it
Mhm.
was out of control. And so I was so fat, and I thought, I'm not healthy. But now I could see that, hey, if I made a decision to change my life to get out of debt, maybe I can make a decision to eat healthy. So, I've lost 40 pounds so far. I'm still
Wow.
on a way
So,
to go, but I made a decision. I don't want to be fat. And since nobody cares if you're fat, it's up to you to do something about it. So I did. So it just empowered me and freed me up to look at all the areas of my life, to make a decision to live the life that I really want.
hmm. And it sounds like you're way happier.
Yeah, I mean, I was miserable before, but again, you can't tell when you're in it.
No.
I think most people are pretty miserable, but they don't do anything about it. So if you say, okay, scale of 1 to 10, we do this satisfaction assessment in the book because we want people to declare, where are you not satisfied in life? Because if you're not satisfied, what are you going to do about it?
Mhm.
And most people just say, I'm not satisfied, but they won't do anything. But if
Mhm.
you said, look, my marriage has been bad forever. I just kind of got used to it. So I'll give it a 6 because we don't fight as much as we used to. And we just kind of live in two separate parts of the house. So I'll give it a 6. But that's a
Roommate.
6 because you've learned to be miserable and you've adjusted to that. But what was it like when you got married? Compared to what you thought it would be when you got married, you're a 1. But
Mm,
you've compromised, you've given up, and you said, that's as good as it's going to be. This is as good as my business is ever going to be. So I'll just say I'm okay with it. I'm making money,
mhm,
but it's
mhm.
not excellent. There's no
Yeah,
passion. It's not fun. I
yeah,
think you have to free yourself up to look at something and say, how do I really want things to be? And then compare it to that.
that's good. I think, like what you said there about how most people are miserable. I think a lot of people are miserable and they're just medicating, right? Medicating with food, medicating with alcohol, medicating with TV, games, whatever it is. They're just
Yeah.
hiding, right? So, good on you for facing it, right, and doing the hard work and being humble and authentic and vulnerable to do something about it.
Let me add one more thought to that.
Yeah.
Success breeds the freedom to try something else. The CEOs and business owners I work with, they're very successful, but the success they have feeds the mindset, hey, if I did that, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And when we see ourselves as victims, that victimhood breeds more victimhood.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't manage your finances well, and then you don't manage your health well, and then you don't manage your relationships well, everything, including your faith, you start to look at your faith and just go, well, that's just a thing. No, it's not. It's who we are. It's part of who we are. It's part of
Mm-hmm.
what makes us who we are. And we continue to just kind of dismiss things as, well, I can't do anything about it. But when you have success in one area, it breeds the passion for more success. And
Yes.
once I conquered the finances and realized that it doesn't have to own me, that I can own it, then I started looking at my health and my marriage and my relationships and creating room in my life to enjoy life again. All those things became opportunities once I saw that I could actually conquer something. It's very freeing. One success will fuel a bunch of other success because you felt what it's like to be the success in that area, and it will fuel the desire for
Mm-hmm.
more.
Mm-hmm. I made a few notes when you were talking. One was, I bet you're a way better coach now than you were before, right?
Yeah.
Because the reason being, most CEOs don't have anyone that will challenge them, will push
Yeah.
back, right? And the fact that you said, now I don't worry about whether this person's gonna be offended by me or stop being my client or whatever. I just tell them how I see it, right?
Yeah.
uh I find that that's an absolute must in the work that I do. And actually, the interview that I'm releasing this week with Tim Spiker is he talked about self for forgetfulness, and how, like, as a coach, we need to be able to come into a situation and completely forget about ourselves
Mm.
intentionally, right? Like, it's present. I'm present, and I'm here. If I'm coaching you, I'm here for Robert, and I need to do whatever is best for Robert in this moment,
Yeah.
and completely forget about any consequences for me, right? And it's a beautiful thing, I find, when you get there. But you can't get there if you have a ton of head trash, and you're worried about whether you'll be able to pay the bills this month, or the $90,000 in debt or whatever. You can't be fully present and forget about yourself if you're there. And so, tell us a little bit about how that's impacted your coach, how this decision's impacted your coaching.
I was pretty insecure as a coach when I first started coaching. I started doing peer groups at the beginning, and then one of my clients asked me, I'd like to have some coaching. Will you coach me? And I go, I don't coach. I don't do that. Because
Mm-hmm.
I was never trained to be a coach. I didn't go through any official training. But also, I really thought of myself as very insecure because I knew all the mistakes I was making in my own personal life. And I
Mm-hmm.
felt like a coach had to have their act together and
Mm-hmm.
tell everyone how to live their life.
And be
But
perfect.
that's what consultants do. Consultants come in and tell you how to live your life or run your business. As a coach, all you have to do is listen, pay attention, and ask questions. And so when someone tells me, hey, I want to spend more time focused on my business and growing the sales side, great. What does that look like? What would your first step be? Okay, well, why aren't you doing it? What do you think will get in the way? And I could ask those questions, and I was really good at asking questions. So I started coaching, but still to that, at the beginning point of it, it really was a lot of head trash that I wouldn't want to say something I would see that was painfully obvious. Hey, you need marriage counseling, man. You need to go get someone who will help you and your bride work through these things. I was uncomfortable pushing past a certain level. But when I got to this place of watching how owning it in my own life changed my life, I can now speak from experience. Look, talk about this all you want, kick it down the road till next year, but it ain't going to get any better. It's like drinking rotten milk and putting it back in the fridge and see, oh, I'll come back to it later to see if it's any better. It's not, it's worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I could really challenge them. I'm not telling you how to be married or how to be a good husband or wife. I'm just telling me, you've told me you don't have a good marriage. What are you going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of coaching is I don't tell anyone what to do. I just ask them what they want to do, and I help them take the first step.
Yeah, hold them accountable to what they said they want to do.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
not hold them accountable because nobody can hold them
Right.
accountable.
Sorry.
It's hard to break out of that, isn't it? Right?
It is. Well, even just to ask them about it, like I find like that's one thing that I've liked about having a coach personally is that, I say, I'm going to do this week. And then the next week they're like, hey, did you do that?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to do that. Right. Like, it's just like a mirror, right? There is a element of that. Just reminding them. But yeah, you're right. Ultimately, I can't make you like sometimes I tell people to read a book, and sometimes they come to the meeting and it's like, yeah, I just went to it this week.
Or they read it and they didn't pay attention. They listen to an audiobook while they're driving and they can speak some things. We talk about in the book about at one point you need to stand in front of a mirror, a 360 mirror, completely naked to be able to figure out what do you really think about the truth of what it is. Because we tell ourselves stories after a while that we deceive ourselves. And I can't help anybody who can't be first honest with themselves. Because if they can't be honest with themselves, they bring it to me. It's a skewed perspective. But if they can really truly look at themselves objectively and then bring it to someone, because even though you look in a mirror, you after a while go, I don't look that bad. I'm not that fat, whatever your story is. And you start to rationalize or justify, go, it's not that bad. Everybody's fat.
Yeah.
and it's not until you really then share someone else that naked picture of you, which please understand, I'm not suggesting you share naked pictures. But when you're in a coaching environment and you say, this is what I truly look like, then I can help you. But if you want to look good in front of me, why would you want to look good in front of me? I'm just a dork. I don't know anything. I'm just a little guy. You should be real and try and get help.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. So, tell us a little bit more about the book. So who's your target? Why did you write it? I guess.
Yeah, it was interesting. We went through a publisher to get the book written because Salem and I both knew there's no way we're going to get this book written. We've been talking about it for about a year. We'd meet at his office on Saturdays and we'd outline and collect stories. And then I go, okay, now write the first chapter. And you go, you write the first chapter. So after about a year of doing that, we just knew we have to hire someone. So we hired a publisher and their question was, who's your audience? And we'd always say everybody. And they go, well, you can't write a book to everybody. It doesn't work. You have to focus on a niche. And we started thinking about the stories we were going to tell about Salem saying how he tried to kill himself one night. Who's that addressed to? Little kids? Old people? People who've got cancer and it's not curable? Who's the book written to? Or we talk about our finances. Is that for little children or is that for married couples? And, all the stories that we tell, they're designed to share our stories so it inspires you to see it in a real and raw way. But we really believe the book is for everybody. We're business owners, so we speak from a business owner tone, but we're humans first. So I guess if I had to narrow it down, I'd say humans, only humans, no aliens.
So you hear that, everyone? It's for everybody. It's for you. We've given it to high school kids and they've responded to it immensely. We've given it to older people. Hey, your life's not over. If you're still alive, there's something reason. God has a plan for you. My mom's 92. She read it a couple times and she gives out copies of it at the home she lives in. She's always my best promoter. Yeah.
But you're never done living. As long as you're still here on earth, you're still got something to do. God has a plan for you. So do it well.
Yeah, that's good. And we all struggle with this. This is the human condition, right? Like this isn't, I don't think there's anybody who's arrived and never struggles with the victimhood situation, right? I catch
we just don't call it that way. We don't say it that way. What we say is it's outside my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And comfort zone is another word for fear.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to say, I'm afraid to do that, you'd be like, what's wrong with you? What are you afraid of? But when I say comfort zone, you go, oh yeah. Man, I got that too. It's a very nice way for everyone else to accept your excuse of why you chose to be a victim another day.
Mm-hmm.
But if you say, I'm afraid, or say, I feel powerless, someone can help you if you're willing to. But
Mhm.
again, that comes back to vulnerability. Vulnerability creates the opportunity for accountability.
Yeah. Tell us that story you told me before we started recording about the person that your friend gave the book to, or you.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, I love hearing stories of people who read our book and how it's changed their lives. And I got a call from a buddy just last Friday who was talking to a friend of his who's going through some real hard times in his marriage and was talking about all these problems and frustrations and was making it sound like he was playing the role of a victim. So my buddy went out to his car and got an extra copy of the book and brought it in. I'm thankful he keeps copies of my book in his
Yeah.
car. That's pretty cool. But he brought him a copy of the book. He goes, "Look, you need to read this because nobody cares if you're miserable. Nobody cares if your marriage is falling apart unless you care enough to do something about it." And he called me and told me that story, and it just made me cry, just thinking that, man, if my book can change one person's life, that's good. We're good. We'd like to change millions of people's lives, but
Mhm.
those little stories where I hear that people have turned their life around or have started a journey towards accountability, that just gives me so much joy.
Mhm. That's good. That's good. Um, I think you're similar to me in that I do what I do because I want to have an impact. It's not about money. It's about impacting in lives and changing lives and ultimately bringing glory to God. We're both Christians, so that's the situation for both of us as well. So I love that. Right? I create these videos hoping somebody will watch it and they'll go, "Oh yeah, I needed to hear that." And I'm going to do something about it. And I hope that, that happens in this case as well. Awesome. Well, thank you, Robert. This has been really good. So if someone wanted to learn more about your coaching and what you do, how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, if they want to learn about me as an executive coach or our peer groups, they can go to refdallas.com. That stands for Roberts Executive Forums, Dallas.com. And they can go look me up, or I'm on LinkedIn. If they want to learn about the book, they can go to nobodycaresbook.com. And on Nobody Cares, we've got videos and we've got the satisfaction assessment that I hope people will start there. Take the satisfaction assessment today and just declare to yourself where you're not satisfied. Be honest with yourself. And then if you really can declare where you're satisfied or not, are you willing to do something about it? And if you're stuck feeling a victim, then I think you need to read our book because you're not a victim. If you're able to watch this video right now, you have a computer or a phone and you're richer than many people, most people, should I say, most people in the world, who
Hmm.
a lot of them spend their time looking for food or water or avoiding bombs dropping on their house.
Yeah.
And we live in a pretty soft part of the world. And so you don't have to be a victim. It's hard. The decisions we made were hard and life is hard, but I'd rather have a hard choice as a victor than stay in a tough choice, hard choice as a victim.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. So on behalf of our viewers, thank you for joining us today, Robert. And thank you for
You're
sharing your
welcome.
passion and your book with the world. I'm sure it's going to be impactful for people on their journey. So if today's interview added value to you, please subscribe to this channel for future interviews with experts in the world of business.